Welcome, everyone. This is Planet Mules, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Terry Adwin,
Hi, hi.
Sanswinda,
Hello.
Guerendas,
Good evening, everyone.
and Calabathian.
Hello!
Hello there, everyone. And this week was, shall we say, a rough ride?
A little bit.
Sort of continuing the rough ride that we were talking about last week, in that the servers were down last weekend, or at least some of them were, and we had a day this week where all the servers were brought down so they could try to get everything all straightened out. Looks like at the last I heard, all the servers are up, except the chat servers. We only have a couple of the chat channels that are open up, but the main servers are all open. You're able to play the game.
I need to get on the creep side because without the chat service, I bet it's wonderful to play.
Maybe.
You mean hampers the communication of the freeps a little bit?
And the creeps,
creep.
you know.
There's
All
a creep channel. Probably
Yes!
more hampers the creeps, actually.
I mean, not just the whole, let's, talk back and forth and figure out what we're doing, but the stuff that doesn't need to be in OOC and it's just, yeah. Not even the...
Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes. But anyway, this week, yes, the servers were down. There were some servers that were down pretty much the bulk of the week before things got back up, and the other servers were running for the most part until that day when they brought all the servers down so they could just get in there and fix up everything.
We hope.
Man,
We hope, yes, we hope.
Really
Probably
feel
not
for the people on
everything.
Arkenstone. I was gonna say really feel for the people on Arkenstone because I think they were down the entire time.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think they were the worst hit of the servers.
I got a cool new character on Laurelin, though.
Yeah. I have one of those.
Yeah.
Everybody has characters on Laurelin now, so you need to get them up into the hundreds. And now I've got people to go with. I'm sorry, I'm only like 11 over there. Well, if you were to Valar, then you would be like 120.
That's a Sans thing. It is fun though, especially on classes that you know how to play.
This coming from the person who basically rolled a new character, and we were like, why did you roll a new character? I just wanted to roll a new character.
I mean,
yes, there was that where we just went to roll a new character. All of us were doing something different. Since when to decide to go and do our own stuff and roll a new character?
The character's almost ready to join, though, so it's all good.
All right, that's good to hear. But anyway, servers were down a good portion of the day, plus, of course, a number of servers were down all throughout the week. We always talked about Arkenstone and Landreval are the two hardest hit on the U.S. side that I can think of.
The two that I actually, had anything to play on.
Yes.
On the U.S. servers.
Yes, I know there was a time when Crick Hollow, because at least in the early stages of it, Crick Hollow was giving a lot of problems also. And I think Evernight was the one that was having trouble on the EU side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a few servers in there that were giving us problems all the way through, and others that were able to be up for most of the time. But I think it was pretty much Wednesday to Thursday or something like this where everything was just brought down.
There were, I think I read on one of the somebody had mentioned it. I think about how they had joined Siranen, the French server, and they
Yeah.
they had already been there just for like one evening, and they already knew these French words, and they put them out there. People were teasing them about. He's like, said something about a curse word, and it was cheese, and everyone was kind of using it and everything, and talking about it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that sort of stuff happens. Now, of course, one of the big problems that there has been going on is that Cordovan thought it would be a bad idea to spam their Twitter channel every hour or so, giving updates to it, since apparently Twitter prefers it if you just have one update and a lot of people are replying to it from their metrics of being able to be seen. So he thought it was best to give updates a lot more sporadically, especially since nothing was changing and he didn't feel like saying, no, nothing new, nothing new, and they didn't know
Yeah.
anything new.
Are we there
And
yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
yeah,
Basically.
in
not
fact,
there
he
yet,
used the
guys.
same. Yeah, in fact, he used the same terminology himself on the Friday stream when he was explaining his reasoning for this. And of course, he also heard yes, and apparently he heard quite loud and clear from the community that the community was not happy he chose that particular manner of doing it. He thought it would
Yeah.
be best from the Twitter side, but yeah, it wasn't appreciated.
Well, here's the thing that I don't really get. I mean, if they'd gone with the every hour updating that nothing's changing, people still weren't going to be happy. So, I mean, people are going to be upset one way or the other, because the biggest criticism was that they weren't saying anything about why the servers are down. Well, maybe they don't know why, or they haven't figured out why, or do we really care why? I mean, is it that important that we know the specifics behind why the servers are down? They're down. Doesn't matter why they're down.
It's an issue at the data center.
It's an issue.
We do not know how much they know on the details, how much they knew, how little they know, how much of it goes into proprietary information and all that stuff. So, but it sounds like the Cordovan is thinking that the exact reasons why is not likely something that's going to be discussed.
Well, and again, it's kind of not really anybody's business why. It's their stuff. They're handling it. And they'll get around to compensating people or not. I mean, usually there's some kind of package.
He's already said that there will be.
Yeah, and they did that last year too, when the servers were down for longer than expected, because they were supposed to be down for what, like a day, maybe two, and it was close to a week when they moved the servers. So I mean, this isn't the first time that we've seen problems and they haven't been super communicative. And I don't know if this is like common among gaming companies or not like, I don't necessarily know that if the WoW servers were to go down for a week that they would be super forthcoming about why the servers are down, and not just in panic mode because, hey, we can't get our people to play our game that they're shelling out for. Because LOTRO has a subscription model, but it is also free to play, so not everybody who plays LOTRO is a subscriber, as versus like WoW, where if you're playing WoW, you're paying for it. So I don't know. But I'm gonna put in the Mixler chat, because we did have an email. We're not talking about the email. Somebody sent us an email asking us to discuss a specific article that was dealing with the downtime, and we reviewed it and decided we are not going to actually address the specific article. But the link is in the Mixler if people want to take a look at it.
All right, then. Anything else have to say about this, or just we hope everything's stable, because we hope it stays that way. There is, of course, the question about when they will be releasing the next update 27.2 in that it was planned, of course, for this week, and there was absolutely no way they were going to do that when the servers were as volatile as they were this week.
Yeah, so hopefully tomorrow, hopefully next week.
Yes, I think they have it tentatively scheduled for next week, but they're not committing to it until they know the servers are stable. Notice that one of the reasons on the things about the weekend is they are monitoring things over the weekend to make sure things are stable throughout the weekend, because they figure if it survives the weekend without anything off, then they may consider things to be at least getting to normal. Of course, there is still the matter of the chat channels, so not everything is fixed yet, but
Getting there.
yeah, but at least we can get in and play the game, and that's sort of the most important point on that matter. And thank goodness for Discord and places like that so that we could chat that way.
Uh-huh.
Has anybody who's here tonight spent time on the server since they've been up?
We were playing on Arkenstone last night.
Yeah.
And go.
My stable horse froze trying to get from Gondaman to Thrassy's Lodge, which was kind of disconcerting because I was on level and didn't really want to die. But it managed to keep going in little hops that looked really weird. And I made it to Thrassy's Lodge without being booted off the server, so that's pretty good. And that was the only major freeze that I had. Like, most of the time I was playing was fine.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
also weird.
The rest of us at the same time that you froze, we all froze. It was
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
we were in the
everybody else
barrow
was frozen.
towns trying to kill things, and suddenly everyone froze and went, "Oh no!"
It's like, okay, we're gonna take our milestones.
We hope that was a one-time occurrence and not a sign of things to come.
Yeah,
It seems like they were starting to come back together as we were but we were kind of done anyway.
I experienced a spike yesterday evening, possibly about the same time you guys did, and I just went ahead and called it for a little bit, and then tried logging back in, and things had settled down. And I did experience a spike this morning, but I was on most of the day doing deeding, and I really didn't have any troubles to speak of.
All right, that's good to hear.
And I mean, I was doing things like, Mordor instances and things like that, so.
Now, one of the side effects of this, of course, is that there are a number of people who weren't able to do their events on this Midsummer Festival, and they have already announced that the Midsummer Festival is being extended until August 3rd, meaning it'll be shutting down wee hours of the morning on the 4th. So at least we won't be losing any time relating to the festival. And Sandstone Games will be announcing next week about VIP time extensions, any constellation gift, and things like that. They're planning. They're just not at the point of being able to announce all that stuff yet, because right now their priority was first to get the servers up. Then after that, they could worry about the other little details that happen once they are back up and running.
I imagine it's okay. Let's get the servers up, and now let's sleep for 3 days solid, because we haven't slept in a week, and now we.
There is that too. There is that too, because yes, I'm sure there are a number of people at Standing Stone Games who were not getting a sufficient amount of sleep during that time.
We don't even know how many of them might actually be sick right now. I mean, because from what I understand, there's not a lot of them at Standing Stone to handle all this stuff. It's a very small team, and if even one of them is sick because there's a pandemic right now, then they're down one person. If there's 5 people, that's 1/5 of your team that is no longer able to help you.
Well, I think they got more than 5 people on their team.
I know. I'm just saying. Even if they had 10 and they lost, they had one person sick. I mean, that's 1/10 of your team, but I mean, still, that's one whole person that can't, can't take up, all this stuff going on. So yeah. I mean,
Well, the main one I would say that would be probably most critical. That would, of course, be their tech team,
mhm.
who would have been definitely on the front line and point on that, and constantly in contact with the people at the data center and trying to figure out what's going on and all that. I don't know if Standing Stone Games has anyone down in New Jersey at the data center, or if everything's remoted from them, or if they can control everything they need to control from
Well,
Boston.
let me ask this first. What is the setup like for those of us who basically just heard, what you said and went, I have no idea what that means. Um, data center, what's that? I mean, why is it not with the Standing Stone team? I mean, what's a little clarification on that?
Right. Uh, that's a good way to just. This is where Draco would help me, because he could probably give you a good definition of what a data center is. A data center is, based on my best knowledge of it, is a building that get there rooms and rooms of servers all over the place, essentially. And the data center is what keeps and maintains all the hardware that's being used within the area. And companies rent out server space from the data centers.
Hmm. So why would they not have tech people at that data center to watch over their stuff and make sure it's going? If it's
I don't know what the setup is. That's all I know. But the data center, I'm sure, has their own experts that are there
Mhm.
in order to handle some of the stuff. Anything else beyond that? Draculetta knows about data centers because he has clients who rent hardware from data centers. So he occasionally has had to go to data centers in order to handle things. And I think he tells me that he's happy he doesn't work directly for a data center, because apparently uh, he's saying that if you found the number of clients, the average data center is probably holding. There's probably at least one emergency going on every single day, or probably at any particular moment, for one client or the other, because they have so many clients and it's a huge number of computers.
So if there is a problem at the data center, then the tech team at like Standing Stone isn't necessarily going to be, have any way to actually fix it themselves because they're not actually there.
I don't know if there are software issues that they probably handle remotely, but it's hard to handle hardware issues remotely unless they have somebody who actually goes into. I don't know how many people at Standing Stone Games are outside of Boston, because I get the impression that most of the crew at Standing Stone Games live and work in the Boston area. There are a few of the customer service people that are in Europe,
Okay.
and
Yeah, because they have.
mainly the French and the German
Mhm.
members of those teams. So I've heard that there are a few there, but that the bulk of their people are in Boston. I don't know if they have anyone in New Jersey who works directly at the data center or not.
Okay, because I mean, it just, a lot of people may not know how the setup is or anything like that, and they're like, well, why can't they fix it? And it's like, well, they literally are not there to fix it. They've never been there. They have to, trust on this team that is at the data center that they rent it from to fix it if it's a hardware issue. And if it's at the data center, then it may be a
Yep.
hardware issue, and therefore maybe it may be something that they basically have no control over. Software we can do, but hardware, we have to send someone down there and figure out what's going on.
Right. That sort of the things. So they might not even know the details on the hardware. But as I said, I don't know the exact arrangement in there. I'm sure it's different for different data centers and different for different clients. Drac might have better way the usual arrangements, but he might not know the specific arrangements for this company or the other because
hmm
inevitably things are going to be different for different clients.
hmm
And one of the reasons you do this is because the data center is able to control what's going on. Now, we just hope that we didn't have a crash in the entire data center or something like that, because that could be a real problem. But
Yeah. And here's one other question. Is there a data center on this side of the pond and then one in Europe, European servers, or are they all over here?
they
They're
are
all at the same
all over
location.
here.
Okay.
They were hoping when they were first thinking of doing the server merge that they would have 5 on each side of the pond, but that never happened, and I think it's long past since they have even seriously considered the matter.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Is that why the European servers really didn't have problems, or is it just kind of weird? Like maybe if it's all in one big room for DDO and LOTRO, that half the room had problems and the other half was okay. It just because weird stuff happens. It's electronics. It's
Yes, let's see, because I know that DDO was experiencing bits of lag and stuff like this, but certainly they weren't experiencing near the troubles that we had in LOTRO.
Was it just lag in LOTRO, or were there other problems?
I don't know, because actually when I was playing in DDO, for example, I didn't notice. I think I might have noticed one hitching and all the whole thing and didn't notice anything significant over there.
Was it just lag for everyone else who was on their servers, guys?
Oh, on LOTRO?
Yeah, on LOTRO. I just didn't know if anyone else had even here on the show had noticed anything other than lag. Like, was it just lag?
Yeah. Well,
I
one of the
mean,
problems.
lag and then no access to the servers on occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of the pro. It didn't help that the servers where I most often play were the ones that tended to be down, except for Honor. But Honor, I had just reached before the worst of this happened. I had just reached a stopping point to the 2 LOTRO series that I was doing, and one of them is going to be off for the next month because it involves the Northlands, and I finished the content there. And on the other one, until Western Rohan comes out, I've got nothing else to do. So so I had to be at a stopping point for both of them. So I had very little reason to be doing much with LOTRO. So I was playing more DDO than LOTRO this week.
Hmm. I guess if I were more knowledgeable about hardware and how we log into the game like that, if it was a hardware issue, I might be able to even guess at something that happened. But I don't know. I'm not very big on that hardware thing, so I don't know what
Yeah,
would be wrong with the hardware instead of the software so that we couldn't log in. Other than just because lag, okay, maybe they lost some hard drives or modems or servers or something. I mean, in the data center, something went and they were having to get some new ones, and then they were having trouble getting, whatever. But the actual, okay,
yeah,
I'm here at my computer trying to log in with my credentials and it's not working. I don't know if that's software or
yeah.
hardware.
Yeah, one of the weird things about data centers is that data center computers apparently are not designed to be shut off. They're designed to be on 24/7. Otherwise it's hard for them to fulfill their job if they weren't designed that way.
Yeah.
So therefore, they don't like being turned off. They're sort of the opposite of many personal computers, where there are a number of personal computers there sometimes where your personal computer just doesn't like it if you keep it on for too long.
hmm
data center computer servers apparently very often have the opposite problem, where they don't like it if you turn them off.
How dare you?
How dare you shut me down?
Nobody gets to log in now because I'm gonna throw a fit.
Yeah, so getting them back. Yeah, so getting them back up afterwards is sometimes the chore because you're wondering because you happen to trip a thing that it had no trouble as long as you had continuous operation, but since you turn it off, getting it back up afterward. So that's another little thing onto it. So who knows what the issue is? And unless there's an announcement of it, which I highly doubt there is, we're not going to know the exact details.
I would like to know, but until then, I'm just going to make up conspiracy theories.
There you go.
Great!
Calabassian, I think there's a job for you on the forums.
Less than right. Yeah. See if there's anything else on this. We still don't know when Weatherstock will be. I think they're waiting for everything to settle down before they come to a final decision on that one. And of course, because Cardamon was busy with all the stuff that was happening this week, there's no beacon this week. So all we have then left on other news in there are store sales. And Terry Edwin, what's on sale this week?
Well, so our summer sales are continuing. We get 35% off crafting carryalls. 35%
Yeah.
off crafting carryalls. 50% off all Valars. 70%
Yes.
off universal solvents now through July 30th. And 30% off housing stuff, select housing decorations, select housing sets, housing property writs, and select cloaks. And I've never understood why they put the cloaks with the housing stuff, but okay. And then our weekly coupon is Battle Potion Restoration times 5 with coupon code BattleRest5.
Might I point out that if things get stable, the next update is supposed to have Rohan housing. So if you're feeling like you have plenty of faith in the team, now's a good time to get those property writs.
Yes.
Also, let's not shame anyone who wants to live in their cloak.
They'll be thought to be rangers if they did that, right?
Right?
Well, yeah, but a lot of people want to be rangers. So, I mean, they dress like rangers, and
they give us their clothes, especially their pants. Like, I have so many sets of ranger pants.
like, hey, thanks for helping me. Here's my pants, and I'm like, no, keep your pants. I don't need your pants.
What I love is that even if you're a hobbit, even if you're a hobbit or a dwarf, they're like, "Here, have my pants," and you're like, I don't think I trust this. It's gonna be like twice as long as my leg, and I'm gonna be tripping all over the place.
And then, of course, you also, have the exact opposite when people, not necessarily rangers, but when there are people like dwarves and hobbits who want to give you clothing items. And I'm like, I'm an elf or a man. And I'm like, a woman. And I'm like, that's not going to work. I might be able to put that on my thigh.
And I don't mind so much the ones that don't say, like, their name, but, like, if it's like, this is so-and-so's pants, I'm like, presumably they were made to fit so-and-so.
Well, at least if you're a hobbit and you're given something by... Actually, no, I mean, if you're a large person and you're given something by a hobbit, you can say, well, maybe I have a child friend or something like that.
Right?
I just love how these people, these mismatched sizes, they give you these clothes, and when you choose them and when you wear them, they fit automatically. Like, what? What?
I love that LOTRO magic.
And they say there's no magic in Middle-earth.
Right?
Well, that's sort of like in D&D, where there are certain rules where where they say that where they had rules for magic armor on whether or not they will fit or anything like this. I think in one edition where, yes, it would magic armor will size itself to whoever wore it.
All armor in Middle Earth is magical.
Yeah, all magical armor all throughout there. Well, why do you think they have all those bonuses?
It makes so much sense. I'll buy it.
This is my leather underwear of agility +1. Also, about the crafting carryalls, everyone was so excited about. Who was it? Was it Cinders who has a character with 10 crafting carryalls on one character?
Yes, she does. It's almost her only character who has the crafting carryalls, though, so she has all of them. I think one of her other characters has a crafting carryall too, but
Why do you have all of these crafting carryalls? Because I am the craft master.
Now, I have to admit, I do have a character that has 2 of them. I think one was because it was a freebie, and the other one was because the freebie wasn't quite large enough, so I got the next size up, and together I barely have all the ingredients I need into there.
I think my cook has 4
Yeah.
that are full of cooking things.
Yeah, cooks are the ones who sometimes need them.
Yeah, my cook has 2 large ones and they're full.
You're going to that whole midsummer banquet. That was all you.
I'm surprised there wasn't a cooking quest. Actually, I guess there is technically a cooking question, but I think all the crafters have something in the crafting hall
Yeah,
too.
they do, but I didn't even bother with that because you had to have like 3 of these, things in order to do just like one banner or one whatever, and I was like, nobody got time for that. I'm on a mission. I must get more, of these tokens because I must get everything that can be worn.
Yes.
I need clothes more.
Let's head into the site news. And we have actually 2 site news items this time, because first we have what is rumored to be the true tale of Leland's lunch. Calibathian. What is this all about?
My hatred of Leland is what it's about. Glompla. Glompla, her full name, by the way, is Glompla Notwise-Took. I was going to go with Took-Took, but I was convinced to do Notwise-Took because then she's a Notwise-Took, which is almost like Took-Took. She's my Hobbit mini, and after she's really the first person that I really paid attention when I was running the minstrel stuff. And I had remembered doing this at one time, but it was so long ago on an elf minstrel or something that it just had kind of gone off into the recesses of my brain because, as you do. But as I was running Glompla through here, I think it was Terry that was like, go do that, go do this. And they were waiting for my reaction. And so after I took her through, apparently my reaction of dismay and salt, like the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is not as salty as I was at the end of that.
We can all float. You can float the whole world on the salt that was in your sea.
Yeah. Yep. I was displeased, and I was like, this not only is this hobbit stupid, I am ashamed to be a hobbit because of this one person here. And so it took a while, but it kind of percolated and glurbled up inside my brain for a little while, and all of a sudden the true tale of Leland's lunch came out with the very first 2 lines, just as they usually do when I'm writing songs or poetry. And this is why it doesn't happen often. I'll just get a phrase that all of a sudden pops into my head, 1 or 2 lines, and I have the beat going in my head. I know exactly what it sounds like, and then I'll write them down, and then all of a sudden it just kind of builds, and I have a poem or a song, whatever. But in the spring, in Breland's plenty, I received a plea for aid. That was what got into my head, the very first 2 lines. And I wrote it down, and then I was just kind of sitting there thinking, and I was like, and mostly this happened after I was told, I was like, I should write a song about it. Just joking. I should write a song about it. And I was like, you do that. Go for it. So I wasn't abled, by the way. This didn't just happen. Individuals who are on the podcast at this very moment are enablers. I will name no names since when to Terry Edwin. But I was generally, enabled to do this. And when it did hit me, I started writing it down. And sure enough, the true tale of Leland's Lunch came out. And from my poor little Hobbit minis viewpoint of the proceedings, because, of course, anybody who has taken a minstrel through that particular quest knows that kind of knows what happens, and so yeah, and we kind of realize at the what it is that this guy is all up in arms about losing and etc. And yeah, so it was just from her point of view what happened, and at the very end, how you're supposed to write a song, and then the guy talking to who's supposed to be this big shot bard of Bree makes you sing it on a table in the pony, or and I'm like, really? I have to sing a song to people I don't know about this stupid this stupid thing that I was told to do, that I came all the way here to do. People, not only that, people said, go on, he needs your help. And then you get there and he's like, my friend needs your help and you'll get a good song out of it. And by the end, you're like, this is not a good song. And they're like, well, go sing on a table. And you're like, you have no choice. You have to make a fool of yourself.
This,
So,
my friends, is where Calabathine is bringing the salt.
iodized. It's not the healthy salt either. It's pure iodized. So, if you would like, I can go through it.
Yes.
Okay. The rhyme scheme we were discussing earlier, the first and the very last line of each stanza is the rhymes, and then the rest of them are kind of odd. I didn't really get a particular rhyme scheme on this. I just kind of started it and realized that sounds good. Let's do that.
Yeah. It looked like rather consistent to me. It looked like an ABCCBA.
I think that was it. Yes. I'll go with that. So in the spring, in Breland's plenty, I received a plea for aid. A bard I quickly recognized, a welcome sight to my eyes, bid me meet up where he stayed. Make for the pony, said he. There you will find a bard sublime, the great piper Prescott, you see. He'll teach you some tricks, a song, or some licks, and before long, Glampla, you'll be better than me. Missing this would be a crime. Off I rode to the inn and bard, excited for what could be. I arrived sometime around 4, unknowing what was in store. For Prescott had a job for that might get me a reward. Brigands have stolen something dear from my friend Lee. The hobbit will not let it go. It will be trouble, you know. The adventure should be a thrill, a tale all will want to hear. I rode off apace to the west to find Leland still livid. Come with me, he cried heatedly, for though we both may be we, our vengeance shall not be outdid. This great heist will be addressed. I should have asked then what had been took, but a hobbit was distressed. An heirloom is precious indeed. Nothing less for their great greed would brigands have tried to possess. A crook is ever a crook. Off to the lair of the host marched the brave hobbit and me. Despite their members' many harms, we forced them to lay down arms. Enough, Leland said finally. You villain, return my roast. Hold on, my brain said as it heard what we had come to reclaim. Did I just hear him correctly? The thief answered directly. That's the only reason you came? You are utterly absurd. Yet here I stand, Leland declared, and I won't leave without it. It's juicy and cooked perfectly. That is my lunch, you see. It's my dinner, too, I admit, said the chief thief. Can we share? And so they did. And all was well, except for the thieves we beat. Back at the inn, Prescott laughed long and wrote this down as a song, which he then compelled me to bleat in my own personal hell. From caves wherein the robbers dwelt to minstrels well reputed, of all this I regret the most the time lost chasing this roast. If you believe this was stupid, just imagine how I felt.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I might have been a little salty, but it probably went really good with that roast.
Yeah, so that was our little trip into the real story behind Leyland's lunch.
And by the way, if anybody likes it enough to set it to actual music to play in the game, feel free to do so and let me know, because I can't, that's the one thing I can't do is compose music. I really, really suck at that. But, yeah.
Well, you've got you've got a challenging set of stanzas to set the music, considering that it looks like it'll be about 6 measures to a strand there, which is
Well,
I tried
challenging things.
Yes, I tried thinking of something to go with it. Oh, sorry, the only thing I could come up with was a slip jig that would not go with that poem at all. But I'm sure that there's that a real musician should be able to figure it out. Maybe we should have Cinders here think about it.
Yeah, Mary loved listening to it, and Lori said Rush could do it. Actually, that would be awesome if Rush could do it. Wait, Rush the band or Rush like an actual like band on the game though? Because if it was like Geddy Lee Rush, then that would be anyway.
Less than headache, because now that we've heard your poetry, I've heard that you've also dabbled in prose. In fact, I believe we have our first chapter of the Berg's Tale, which was quite a story.
Yes. I'm not sure how to take that though. It was quite a story. Yes, but did you like it? It was quite a story.
Well, I was hoping to go into the opinions after you did your bit.
Well, this is kind of what happens when,
because the prologue was up last week.
Yeah. And pretty much the way it is that when the servers go down, apparently I write everything and try to take over the world. But conspiracy theory number 1. So yeah, the first chapter of A Berg's Tale, after you get done with the prologue, you pretty much get the first chapter of Morkendir, kind of, his little chronicle. And it's pretty much starting out how we all kind of start out, at least on the game. Like I mentioned, there will be times when it kind of goes off path every now and again, but for the moment, it's a little bit of a chronicle for the burglar path, as it is on LOTRO. So, yeah, Morkendir, when you're in the intro, it's kind of because prologue and intro bit of the game are really long. Not quite as long as some of the other prologues and such, because, but he is a man, and so you start out in not Arkit, but in the Blackwold camp as a prisoner, and you get rescued, and you rescue the hobbits, and then there's Amdir and a Nazgul and Stabbity Stab, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of how that goes on through the intro. And so that was what chapter 1 was Morkendir going through all of this and some of the other stuff that you have to do along the way. And in the end, what happens when everybody is, when the fires have died down. And I kind of leave off on the end of chapter 1 with, what happens when he basically rides into and is doing stuff with Coombe and with Staddle, and then he finally makes it to Bree, and everything like that. But because it was already really long, I didn't want to really hit. Well, that, and it was a good place to jump off because I didn't want to hit chapter 2 and with a bunch of stuff. I wanted to start off chapter 2 with, Morkendir has a certain perspective about Strider, given what happens and what he has to do and all of that. And then for the next chapter, it kind of actually goes into a little bit deeper how his opinion on Strider changes, because they actually get to have a little bit of a conversation. We don't get a lot of conversation. We kind of get a little bit there, but kind of like in between the gaps, what could possibly have been said. I like playing in the gaps. I'm sorry, but I do.
Yeah.
So that his opinion kind of shifts, and we kind of go along and how some things can make more sense with what is going on in the game, because we're kind of going along, and some of the stuff that's said, if you don't really think about it at the time, but later on you may, or even the 4th or 5th time that you run through it, in some cases, when you have 50 or so alts, not naming names, sans Winda, but but if you have a bunch of alts go through these, these stories in the very beginning, like, a whole bunch of times, you might not realize it at first, but then all of a sudden it hits you, because this is what usually happens is, your brain kicks in and goes, wait just a second. How am I supposed to know that? I mean, I know it as a player, but the person in the game I'm playing, okay, are they supposed to know that already going into it? Because then sometimes later on, somebody will say something like, they'll reference whatever it was, and, as if you didn't know, and they're telling you, and you're like, but before I was basically interacting with someone who acted like I knew, which doesn't necessarily mean you did, but yeah, some of that so that's why I kind of like playing gaps, kind of filling in, at least from my opinion, filling in some of those gaps for Morkendir about, okay, he just saw this creepy, black rider thing on a black horse stab this ranger, and this creepy voice came from it, like, and Strider's talking about Mordor, and there's an emissary from Mordor here, and it's okay, and this doesn't terrify you.
Right.
You're just running around doing stuff because it's Mordor. But so it's a bunch of this stuff, and some of the stuff kind of falls in those gaps, and so I kind of wanted to pull out a little bit, but I had to get through in chapter 1 the whole big, prologue and intro stuff to get to the point where I can start kind of falling in more and more into those gaps, because the more I started writing this, the more I realized it's a lot of running around and a lot of don't want to say not a lot of story, but there's not a lot of important dialogue. There's enough dialogue to get you going and stuff, but it's the intro. So it's built off of, I think, the idea, and this is just me, I think that whole first set of things is built off the idea and built for someone who is brand new to the game and hasn't played it and may not know the story itself very well. You've just gone through and gotten used to some of these controls. Now we're in the intro section, and we're trying to save Arquette and running around and stuff because you don't have a horse. And if you really think about it, it's kind of like what he says here. Morkendeer actually points out, if it's really that crucial that we do this, why is nobody giving me a horse? Why am I running on foot? And at one point, you've run off
Well,
to
the
John
distances
Brackenbrook.
aren't that great.
Do what?
The distances really aren't that great.
Well, I know, but if even then, if it's like, if it is and critical that, and if you really think about it, it's supposed to happen in one day.
Yeah.
Because by the time you get out to talk to Calder Cobb, he says that, oh, this evening, be gone by by this evening, or, you'll be killed too. So all of that is like, okay, I've just run around a bunch, and now I'm being told you have to be gone by this evening. So it's like 24 hours, or the equivalent of, from Middle Earth. I think we're 24 hours in Middle Earth. But they pretty much, say that kind of thing. And so a 24-hour period, even less than that, I would say, but a 24-hour period, it almost seems like, between the whole escaping thing from the, in the Nazgul stabbing Amdir, because Strider says it's nighttime when it happens, I think.
Yeah.
That I remember. Between that and you get, Strider says when you're leaving, the area, that there's a town nearby. When you get to the town, it's daylight again. And you've been pretty much passed out asleep for a while because you wake up. It doesn't say how long you've been asleep, but it's been enough to actually be daylight. And then you spend the rest of that daylight period running around doing errands and trying to get all this stuff done. And then you go to John Brackenbrook in his cabin out there. And of course you have to, it's like, okay, so Atlee Spiderbane, apparently the Bane of Spiders, wants you to be the one to go over there and deal with the spiders and check on this wall. That's one of the, I'm just like, but you are the Spider-Bane. Why has this not happened? And sometime in there, if you actually do it, the guy sitting inside the cabin is like, hey, you look tired. Have a nap and, go ahead and have a sleep there in that bedroll. And it's like, okay, I'm literally working on like 12 hours of daylight, give or take, before this town is going to be razed to the ground. Because they've said as much. It's been in their plans. We've got their plans. And this guy's like, hey, have a nap. And then you do, and you get all these dreams. Galadriel. Spoiler alert for like the last 12 years. But, and then you wake up, and then you go off, and, oh, hey, by the time you get to Arquette with John Brackenbrook, who waited until you did all the work before he did anything, you basically see that, oh, the town is already on fire, and it's dark. And I'm like, really? So, kind of trying to make sense of that in a storyline.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so maybe, it just, there are a bunch of questions that pop up that you really don't think about necessarily until, you've gone through it more than once, and then you're like, but wait a minute. But I think that's because it's set up for brand new players.
Well,
And, for the most part. And so after you've learned how the controls are, you get to run around doing this stuff, but you're still not high enough level to get the horse that you need. So obviously you can't ride a horse yet unless you're VIP. But I mean, I'm talking about free to play type thing.
well,
Um,
at this stage of the game, not even VIP. No one can, because
yeah,
you can't ride a horse until after you get out of the intro.
yeah. So, the intro is set up, I think, for newer players, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
And for those of us who have been through it, it's not, it's not as bad because we know what we're expecting, but it's a little annoying in some cases. And you look at it and go, okay, if everyone is okay, this is critical. Why is nobody letting me borrow a horse to ride around on to make sure that it's, hey, I need to run out here. So instead of it taking me an hour on foot, it might actually take me 15 minutes on horseback. If that had happened, would Arquette be in flames? I could, so things like that kind of start percolating in your head, and you start asking questions. And as a character, I just kind of took that and ran with it like, okay, these are some questions to face as I'm this with what is this dude thinking, and everything. Because one of the things that he does is, he realizes Amdir's not doing well. And it's like the dude apparently wasn't necessarily badly stabbed. Amdir himself says, or maybe Strider says it's, Strider's like, Amdir says it was just a scratch. And I'm like, you didn't check? So, but he goes off to do the King's Foil. And me as a player, I'm like, that's what he did for Frodo. So there must be something with that. Well, as we know, as we play through this, it's like, why did the King's Foil work? So, maybe, who knows? I'll probably have to deal with it later. But one of the things that my character as a burglar, as Morkendir, faces with Strider is the fact that, Strider knows that Humdir's not, and yet he says, I have to go because I have something more, more pressing. So you're going to have to help the town. And and for Morkendir, he's looking at this going, dude, this dude is dying just like I am. And you're going to let him die alone as the town gets, razed to the ground? What could possibly be that important? So he doesn't actually have a good impression of Strider at that point. Now, come chapter 2, he changes that because things become more clearer, I guess.
Spoilers. Chapter 2's not out yet.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, because of how the storyline is, he's going to have to change his opinion because obviously it's like, oh, hey, volume 5, I show wedding and we're not, trying to kill each other. So obviously at some point we actually grow to like each other as, so it's not really that big of a spoiler that he changes his mind. I mean, like, why would you bother going to this dude's wedding if you I went to ogle that pretty elf chick. So, so yeah, I mean, it's kind of some of the stuff that happens, and of course, Morkendir is very sarcastic. But
I noticed.
yeah, he's a very sarcastic guy. But he does get through to the end, and by the time he gets out, and is ready to move on and trying to like flee any more part of this hero business, that is not who I am. Yeah, right. He's going to be able to lie low. And we'll see how well that works out.
Yeah.
But chapter 1 is based off of that whole I guess that whole intro and stuff.
Yes, the intro where, yeah.
Yes.
The interesting thing on this is that the intro has evolved over the years. The
Mhm.
thing about sleeping, I don't remember when I don't know if they added that with free to play or if that came a couple of updates later.
That was a long time. That was quite a bit later, actually.
Yeah, quite a bit
'Cause
later. That's what I was thinking.
that was after even the Helm's Deep update.
All right. Yeah. So that one hasn't been out as long as the intro. And in fact, they even changed the header. I think the intro changed. I think it was either the first or second update after free to play. They changed the intro because the intro used to be very, very. It was actually the man intro didn't change as much as some of the others, but Strider was not involved in it. Because Strider was in Breed doing what Strider would be doing, but they
Mhm.
wanted to bring Strider into the intro because they were thinking they were getting more people who might be familiar with the movies or the books, and that would be a good idea to have him present in Archit, even though.
Terrible idea, because now you don't care about Omdir at all.
Right, because you cared about Omni because you were questing for him. You have this dying man who's asking you to do these things for him so that
Mhm.
you have some hope to give him hope and things like that, and you're doing all your best on this, and yet you don't have nearly the connection with Omdir as you had in the original version. So I thought that storytelling wise that the original one was much better, but they wanted to make this connection with members of the Fellowship, so they brought in Strider.
That and the way that I don't know, it's not a smooth transition because you've met Strider here and he says, "Oh, I have to go," and he doesn't really help you with defending this town,
Right.
but by the time, one of the things that you do once you get is they send you off to Strider
Yeah.
to go find him. And, because part of the thing that you do is, Amdir, and he's doing what he's doing. And you have to go find Strider. And that kind of is a little bit rough, I think, because
It's
it's like
very rough.
you have to go find Strider. It's like, dude, I was just with him in Arquette. He said he had to leave. I don't know where he is. And they're like, go to the Prancing Pony. He'll know. And you're like, good luck with that. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, that's sort of the problem there. And one of the problems is that you could be going to Strider from one of four, actually now one of six different directions, but originally it would have been one of four different directions if he chose races where you might have been doing the early bits, the prologue bits in four different areas. And because of that, well, I guess now the hobbits would have met Strider because of the nature of of the tutorial now.
Mhm.
But originally, of course, Strider has nothing to do with the rescue of the hobbits. That was being done by Omdir.
Mhm.
So yes, when they added that in there, you still have the dwarves and elves though, who would never have met Strider before, assuming that they followed their own paths and didn't jump over to a different area's path. So because you have these people who had not done it before, you can't have Strider acting like he knows him. And they didn't change anything, I think, in Strider's dialogue. I mean, they could have changed, I guess, Strider's dialogue for the first quest at the Prancing Pony once you get to him, so they had a different version if you were a man or a hobbit. And I think that might have made things a little bit more smooth because right now they didn't want to change it because for half the population, they wouldn't have met Strider yet. So yes, it's a very rough edge. It's probably one of the
And
roughest edges in the story.
yeah, and there's another. I noticed this not for this part, for when I was doing chapter 2. At one point, Strider is talking about how, oh, I've gotten these tidings from, the dwarves and elves because there's a dwarf lord that's, blah, 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 and, leading the dour hands, thing. And then later on, when Strider is actually around and sees said dour hand leader, he's like, I wonder who that who that dwarf. I'm like, what?
Yeah. There's a whole, unfortunately, it looks like they that sounds like a line that got added in later, and it doesn't make sense because they had other parts of, because book one itself didn't change any, so you could see a few problems that came in through there. And I'm sure that our and I'm sure our burglar will have a nice sarcastic response to the whole thing.
Yes, there is sarcasm through it, and sometimes, like I said, the gaps and everything, sometimes I kind of catch those little rough places, and I'm just like, okay, scribble, they didn't say that. We're going to ignore that part because it makes no sense in this storyline, okay? Makes sense for like an elf storyline or a dwarf storyline, but not for a man storyline, okay? But yeah, so there may be some slight things there, and I take some of the dialogue that they actually use in the characters actually use in the game and kind of add it there and then layer it, around, mine around it to kind of make it flow a little bit. So
yeah, that works out very well. And I think it was all very well done. It's probably I think it was the best story writing that I have seen on the site that I can actually remember.
Okay, now you're just buttering me up. What you want?
Yeah, are we forgetting the family line? I mean, not that the Berg's Tale isn't bad, but
I didn't like the editing in the family line. There are just so many typos in there. I could never get through it. Now, during the later parts of it, it seemed like you finally get it, because when I picked it up later near the end, I was finally getting through it. But the early parts of the family line, I was too distracted by typos all the way through.
oh, I read fluent typo, so it's okay.
Yeah, I don't read fluent typo. I get distracted by typo.
I do too, but then again, I actually teach writing to high school students, and so I'm just like, oh no, what have you done to this sentence? It is an atrocity. Let me just write.
Now, where family line excelled was the fact it was taking a completely different story through a different path and the same characters through a completely different thing. So crafting the story is fine. It was just that I didn't like the editing there. So, but anyway, I liked your. Yes, I liked how it flowed. It flowed well. I guess because you said you teach writing, you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it shows. It's because you go through the trouble of editing it and making sure that everything flows.
Thank you. So chapter 2 will be out. They'll be coming out Saturday mornings. So chapter 2 will be next Saturday morning by 6 a.m. I want to say Eastern. I think something like that. But yeah, it'll be on Saturday mornings.
Okay. We'll look forward to that. And Lee, I can remember it. I don't want to remember it at 7:58.
Well, I mean, if you check LOTRO players, it'll be like, oh, hey.
Let's now head to our new player question. What's the question this week?
Better phrase than what it was. You know what? I've been talking too much. Somebody else do this question.
Well, now the game is down. What now? That's our new player question.
What now?
Which is basically where we talk about what we did during the downtime, because obviously we weren't. I mean, we have LOTRO highlights to do still, our week in LOTRO when it was up, but there was a lot of downtime. So this is our what were we doing when we weren't playing LOTRO?
What did you do during the war, Daddy?
Did you know that there's this thing called outdoors?
It's too peoply out there.
It's
too
really
peoply.
kind of warm and sticky and bright, but I did spend some time outside. I read a book, and I also managed to see 2 movies. I want to thank Discord for the share screen function. I got to see Pacific Rim and Mad Max Fury Road, which I'd never seen before. So, kind of hung out with friends, watching movies and talking, and yeah.
Now I've got a mashup in my head. Mad Max,
Yeah.
Furious and Fast.
Yeah. Well, right now my county's still on lockdown, so it's hard to go do some of that stuff.
Well, the movie was at home. That was on
Okay.
Discord. That's what I was saying. Shout out to Discord. Thanks for the share your screen
Ah.
function. No, but the outdoors was just, after a while, you get to stare into the same 4 walls if you're not staring at Middle Earth, and you have to do something. So I took walks.
In that note, my sister's daughter left a note for her mom, during this time, just taped it to the wall that said, "I'm leaving," and then her name. And my sister walked into her room and found her daughter hiding in the closet. That's where she went. She left and went to her. That's apparently she was just tired of being homebound too. But she has told my sister at one point, "Where are we going to college?" So my sister's like, she's never going away. She's never going away. She's like 8, so But yes, apparently, when the game is down, like I said, I write a bunch of stuff and try to take over everything LOTRO related. It's a living.
It's a living. Okay. Yes, I spent a great deal of time in DDO because fortunately the DDO servers were at least up. So I played quite a bit of that. And I also spent some time playing board games. I spent quite a bit of time playing some board games during the time. And of course, there was the usual stuff with work, since there's always that.
Schoolwork too.
And of course, there was Senswinda introducing me to Take Over the World.
Oh yeah, you did join us for Sim 6.
Does anyone else have anything they wish to add?
Well, I played Sims 4 a lot because, not even gonna lie, I had a bonus check drop from work because they decided we needed another bonus for, risking our lives out in retail where people aren't masking still. Thanks for that, the general public.
Oh, it could be so much worse.
Yeah, we could have the numbers of people in store that we had back when we were supposedly stay at home.
Well, not only that, but there was one person who was asked. I think it was either a Home Depot or a Lowe's. It made the news, but she was asked to put on a mask, and in return, she pretty much dropped trow and peed on the floor.
Well, it wasn't Lowe's because we're not allowed to say anything. Still,
but it was something. I'm like, it could be worse.
Yeah. Well, apparently the word from on high is we don't want to be one of those places where somebody makes a comment and there are firearms drawn. So, yeah. So to distract myself from all of the real world stuff, I'm playing lots of games. I would go on walks, except it's disgustingly hot and humid, and also I'm allergic to the outdoors. So
it's too peoply out there.
Sims 4, I got a couple of more expansions and other pack thingies, and I got vampires and I got the magic pack, and so I've been playing through some of those storyline things. because they actually have little storylines, which is cute. I also picked up the university one, and my sim just went to college, so vicariously going through college. It's hilarious. I did have played a little Civ 6 with the group, and then actually last night, Cinders and I introduced Greymaster to Pirate 101, which I hadn't played in a long time. And the game's changed a little bit, but not significantly so. It's for those who aren't familiar with the King's Isle games. I also have dabbled in Wizard 101. Wizard 101 was my first MMO prior to being in LOTRO. Pirate 101 is its slightly older cousin. And I say that because Wizard is kind of targeted toward little kids. Like, you can be, you don't have to know how to read because everything's voiced over. And there's lots of bright, shiny colors. So it's targeted from like ages 5 to 70 because it touts itself as a family game and does a pretty good job of being a family game. Pirate is for a slightly older crowd, like your teeny boppers and preteens, like 12, 13-ish and up, because the mechanics are slightly more complicated. But still fun. We ran all over the place with our pirates. I made a witch doctor character, which is a class I had not actually previously played in the game. And you get really cool voodoo animation stuff when you're doing your thing. So that's been a lot of fun. And I'm pretty sure that's it for me. We haven't heard from Sans yet. Sans, anything new-ish?
I did homework. And, I played Minecraft with my nephew and Pokemon Let's Go with my nephew. And played earlier today, my sister and I introduced him to Pirate 101, which was fun. Trying to think what else. Civ 6. Mostly I did homework. The other stuff was mostly around the sides when I was like, I should do something fun to reward myself.
Well, you need a little bit of fun to balance out the work. This is one of the things that I see all the time on Sims, because you can't have the Sim working on schoolwork or studying things all the time. You need to give them a break and have them like sleep and eat and shower.
Which sometimes takes all day.
And do fun things, because they have a fun meter.
Yes. So, but that's mostly what I've done.
Then let's head into our week in LOTRO. And Calabathian, what were you up to?
Well, as mentioned, Chapter 2 of Mort's story is scheduled, and chapters will be available Saturday mornings. I also went hunting Crabane with the Academy in the Barrow Downs and came across stupid Lalia. If she's not careful, she's going to get a song made out of her, too. And then I managed another Firefly run on before Godzilla ate the servers again. It was Godzilla, y'all. It was Godzilla. It was Godzilla.
It was Godzilla that ate the servers. Ooh.
Yes.
Now we've heard it first here.
Yes. Breaking news. It was Godzilla who ate the servers. I'll try to think of something else for the reason why the servers went down, and note it next week. So Guarendis, how about your week?
Well, surprisingly, I got things accomplished in between the server shenaniganry that happened. I finished the Circle of Despair, but I haven't been into the Circle of Death yet. It sounds a bit ominous even when things are running normally, let alone this week. with any kind of leg spikes, I don't want to have to try to get myself all the way up to the top of the city again. So I
That and
finished.
it's the circle of death.
Yeah. It just seems like it's asking for more trouble than it was worth.
Don't tempt fate.
So sometime soon, I'm sure. I'd like to get out of Minas Morgul and I guess get into Kirathungal again. Anyway,
Sounds
finished.
brilliant.
I finished mini deeds and got many titles. Heroine of the Plateau, that is Gorgoroth. I finished all of the there's like continuing deeds or something like that. It's where you have to do. Each region has like a list of a bunch of different tasks you have to do, and I finally got all of those out of the way. Tamer of the Wildlands, which is the Vales, I got all of the deeds finished there. Vanquisher of Dwarfholds and Defender of Dwarfholds. Vanquisher is the Slayer deed, and Defender is because of that. And that gets you the cool emote, the Triumph emote, although it's really odd because my hunter wears medium armor and it looks really... It sounds like I should have heavy armor on going donk donk every time I slap my chest. It's a little odd. I don't know. Anyway. And also Enemy of the Heirs, talking about the Heirs of Castamere, I actually got Tarling's crown finally out of my quest log earlier this week. So
Nice.
Just
I
imagine the
don't have that
Dwarfholds
sitting
one.
there.
Just imagine the Dwarfholds one when you're wearing a light armor, or when you've got your cosmetics on so that you don't have any armor at all, it looks like, and you dunk dunk. It's like
Turtle, I don't know. Anyway, managed to see performances at the Pony, though. This is the thing that I love about being on Landerval. Monday night came up. World had kind of felt a little shaky. There'd been leg spikes, but there was an impromptu. Somebody was practicing some music that they had done, ABC files they'd done at the Pony stage, and it turned into an impromptu little concert with a bunch of people trickling in and showing up and dancing and having fun. And then last night there were two different bands playing round robin, alternating back and forth and doing great music at the Pony again. One of those things I kind of missed this week was just, you see a lot of the same people when you show up there anyway. Getting to see those people and all of us greeting each other, and it just drives home that we really are a community. And I thank SSG for the work they've done trying to get us back into the game, because I kind of miss seeing these random people that I know there are other human beings on the other end of those characters, and just all of us seeing each other and having a good time. It was a lot of fun to see. Since when, what did you get up to this week?
Well, I went to at least 2 of those performances with you. That was fun. And I enjoyed standing around at the South Gate and watching people form groups with Say, the Say channel, and that was pretty fun. I did not join one of the groups, but Maven, Natesh, and I took our baby Runekeepers into the Barrow Downs, and that was pretty fun. Lots of lightning followed us around, and things kind of just died.
It's amazing what happens.
Right. And I learned more about Rohirric history, and I think I've learned all about Rohirric history now that's out, so I'm looking forward to more updates. Left the scholarly guy making notes, and I think we just have some more dwarves to help, and we should be good to go there. And on the field trip, I rolled a new alt and made it to level 16. So I think I'm aiming for level 20-ish by next week, if everything goes well.
Yes, because we're right around 18, or I think I'm the only 19. Everyone else is 20. So
yeah, and you guys finished Othrangroth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
need to get there. But
yeah, I think one of the things we wanted to try next time was going to be the Great Barrows.
Oh, cool.
Once everybody got up to 20.
So, yeah, I'm 16 now. And I'm proud of myself because I have completed a lot of deeds in Ered Luin on my way. So, finished the whole prologue for the first time on my own in, like, forever. And finished all the quests. And, well, I didn't do all the quests, but I did all the quests for the deed. Deeds for quests. So, yeah, I was pretty proud of myself. What were you up to, Terry?
Well, Land of Alteri also finished out the story of the Rohirrim so far. But I was very bummed because at one point we had to go kill 2 giants and 2 wargs and 2 trolls. And Sands and Pine would not let me go back in and take out the village with all of the orcs and trolls. They just said, no, we need to keep going. So I was very bummed. But we made up for it by killing all of the giants that we found when we were in the giant area. And I mean, we hunted giants until we could find no more giants, and then we went to do other stuff. Because, when you have stuff that is supposed to be slightly harder to kill, and you're a champion, you make it your life's mission to make all of that stuff die.
Yes, you do.
And I did. I'm actually still pretty proud of myself that Terry can go toe to toe with one of those things and not really have a problem with it. Sarissa did a few more of the wedding side quest thingies while the servers were up, in between servers bouncing around like yo-yos. But I didn't finish. I didn't finish the wrapper. I got like 9 of 10. So, yeah, I still have to finish that up. So I'm not even gonna finish like the second tier of wrapper stuff with her, even with the extension, just because I can't bring myself to stay in Minas Tirith all that long, really. Knowing she has other stuff she really should be doing in Minas Tirith that has nothing to do with weddings. But I also managed to make it to an academy run, and I dusted off an arcade that I hadn't played in like 3 years. It's always fun when I dust off an old character because I can tell how long it's been based on where their bottom of their bag was the last time I played. Because I bought inventory slots it's been a little while since I bought inventory slots, but I can tell that I played these characters long time before the inventory slots, because, yeah. But it was fun. I actually was running her with she was at level 20, and they were all like 16, 17, so I only had the one pocket XP item from the Rohan pre-order, and it wasn't until they started actually catching up in level that I even opened up the Mordor and Minas Morgul stuff to get out those XP booster thingies. So I think she ended up at level 20, 21, 22, something like that. Except I went through Osringroth with the group, but I have to do it again because I was in the right spot for the Bree side quests, but I was not in the right spot for the epic quest because I kind of sort of abandoned the epic on her. Which is weird because I almost never do that. So, I don't know. I probably had some sort of plan. I could not possibly tell you what it is, or was, or might have been. I don't know. And yeah, that was my week. How about you, Pine Leaf?
I'll begin with my Langeville board, where I also learned more about the history of the Horse Lords. There's a lot of that going around, isn't there?
A little bit.
Yes.
There is.
Yeah. And then for the field trip, we headed into the Barrel Downs to go Whiten. And then in the Friday night fight, we ran 3 of the Minas Morgul 3-player instances, the Harrowing of Morgul, Deep Barrow, and Shadow Roost. So we managed to finish all 3 of those, which is strange. And I am glad that we did not do the fifth well. I have a feeling that if they suggested we do the fifth well, I think I might have suddenly gotten a disconnection or something like that. After 3 of them, it was getting late, so I decided, okay, maybe it's time for me to go now before someone suggests to do the fifth well. And that's it for
That's not your favorite instance, Pine?
This was horrible.
That's very. They put you through torture, and then you get faced with the anglerfish from hell. You know.
Yeah, this is horrible. I wouldn't do that instance again.
Yeah. Now
I think I've done it 4 times now. I think I've only done it 4 times.
Only?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, unfortunately,
it's not my favorite either.
Yeah, I'm sure I've done it at least 3, and I am hoping that will be it. That, of course, does not count the times where I think I had to repeat it 2 or 3 times because they got killed during the first time.
Yeah.
Now let's have a look at news beyond LOTRO, where the Lord of the Rings, the board game anniversary edition has been announced. And this is some comparisons here between some of the old edition and some of the what are in the main edition and what's in this anniversary edition. And essentially, the anniversary edition, they added a great deal more, I guess you say, plastic or whatever. They've made the dice a lot nicer. They replaced the standees with figures, and they made a more deluxe ring to work on that. And personally, I prefer standees than miniatures because I don't really do miniatures painting, which means that the miniatures can very often look a little bland because they're not painted, while the standees have the nice artwork on them or something like this. So I personally prefer regular editions for that way. And whenever anyone offers a game with a deluxe version with figures or another edition with standees, I get the version with the standees because the figures don't always work for me. Though I'm sure there are some people out there, though, who either love painting miniatures or just love to have the super deluxe versions to it. And this edition will be for them. We currently have 14 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious rate of players and help support LOTRO players, go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. Your money will be used for our podcast hosting, website hosting, and to pay for our live shows. And if you wish to support us without joining Patreon, you could send a message to Drac at lotraplayers.com. If you'd like to contact us, you could send us an email at podcast@lotraplayers.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter, the Players Alliance at Players Ally, Lotra Players at Lotra Players, Arendis at Arendis, Ponleaf at Ponleaf Needles, Sanswinda at Sanswinda, Terry Adwin at Terry Adwin, Guarendis at Guarendis, and Calabathian at Calabathian. The Players Alliance has 3 shows on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have DDO Players News on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have Lotra Players News. And if you like to follow XP Quest, then you need to follow the XP Quest Twitter feed to know when it goes live. But I should warn you that XP Quest is not Pineleaf friendly. And you could join us for our shows at lotraplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight. And this is Pineleaf Noodles reminding you to socialize responsibly.